From the Chesapeake Bay Journal, your source for independent environmental reporting, this is Chesapeake Uncharted, the podcast that uncovers stories about the Bay, its interconnected ecosystem, and the people who rely on them. I'm Jeremy Cox. On today's episode,
when I talk to some of my white counterparts in the industry, they always are amazed, like, wow, you did this, you're on this commission, you're on that commission, you did that, you're a grant writer, you got you're doing this, you're LLC, you're doing, and they're like, wow, how do you do it all? And my response always is this: I wish I did not have to do all of that. But being a person of color, we have to fight extra hard to get at the minimum bar recognizational level as some of our white counterparts.
In December 2023, a nonprofit called Green 2.0, which advocates for more diversity in the environmental sector, published its latest report card detailing the state of hiring nationwide. The results were disheartening. Overall, it showed that modest gains in hiring people of color have leveled off. From 2017 to 2021, the share of board members identifying as people of color swelled from 19% to 32%. But over the next 2 years, that figure grew by less than 1 percentage point. The analysis of more than 73 environmental organizations' survey responses found similar trends among senior staffs. Some growth and diversity for a time, then a plateau. All of this is to say that today's guest is all too aware of the challenges he faces. For Randy Rowel, navigating the environmental world as a black man equates to hard work. He's worked in the environmental field for years. In his current role, he coordinates a program with an unwieldy acronym and a big mission. It goes by the name of C-Stream. That's the letter C, followed by the word stream. It stands for the Chesapeake Student Recruitment, Early Advisement, and Mentoring Program. Did you get all that? Its objective is to help guide college students from historically underrepresented populations into environmental research and management careers. And as Rowel mentioned at the top, he's a jack of all trades. He also chairs the Annapolis Environmental Commission, runs a company that builds green infrastructure, and serves on Maryland's Green and Blue Infrastructure Policy Advisory Commission. And there's more. But in short, Rowel is a wavemaker. Welcome to Season 3 of Chesapeake Uncharted. This time, our team here at the Bay Journal is interested in hearing from a younger generation of Bay leaders, the people who weren't born when the Chesapeake Bay cleanup formally began 40 years ago. With the Bay restoration facing its current set of cleanup goals in 2025, this felt like a good time to go searching for some inspiration. Each episode spotlights one of these wavemakers. Today, we're breaking one of our rules just a little. Randy Rowel is 43 years old. Yeah, I know, that's technically higher than 40. But he's still younger than me, and at 44, I don't consider myself to be that old. So there you have it, a special dispensation granted to Randy Rowel by the authority vested in me as your host. I think you'll like his story, which demonstrates that your life can take a lot of unexpected twists and turns before you land where you belong. More from our conversation after this short break.
Hi, this is Laura Lutz, editor at the Chesapeake Bay Journal. I hope you're enjoying our podcast, and I'd like to invite you to join the community of Bay Journal readers. If you care about climate change, wildlife, clean air, healthy communities, and of course the Bay and its rivers, you'll find news you can use at the Bay Journal, along with some great ideas for outdoor travel. Our subscriptions are free. Check us out at bayjournal.com and click on subscribe to start receiving the best independent environmental news in the Bay region.
Hello again. On today's episode of Chesapeake Uncharted, we're listening to my interview with Randy Rowel, diversity advocate, green business owner, and policy wonk. I first met Randy a few months ago at the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay's annual Watershed Forum in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. The conference is where some of the best and brightest minds in the Chesapeake watershed gather to share ideas and make new connections. It takes place at a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service training facility. From the looks of it, you could easily mistake it for a small college campus. There's even a hunting lodge-inspired mess hall. Attached to it is a bar where conversations often go deep into the night. That's where I initially met Rowel, holding court at a table full of new and old acquaintances. I don't know that anyone has the word mentor written all over them, but if there was, it would be Rowel. In our interview, conducted a few weeks later, I was interested in what inspires him to keep expanding his portfolio. Well, Randy Rowel, thank you so much for joining the show here today.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm guessing from we have a little screen here, your plaid shirt, that it's pretty chilly in Annapolis today.
Yeah, the wind's kicking up. It was actually been raining the last few days, but it's cleared up a little bit.
Tell us what you do here. You work with C-Stream, right? You're the director there?
Yes, I'm the program coordinator for the Chesapeake Research Consortium C-Stream internship program / fellowship program.
Well, help people understand. What do you all do?
Well, the Student Recruitment and Early Advisement and Mentoring program focuses on providing internships as well as a professional development, paid internships for those seeking to create a leadership position in the environmental industry throughout the Chesapeake Bay region. So we help with connecting interns to research projects throughout the summer at various institutions such as VIMS or the EPA, Chesapeake Bay Program Office, and NOAA, the NCBO office, just to name a few.
How many students do you tend to have in a given semester?
Anywhere between a cohort between 8 to 12 interns.
Are these undergrads or?
We tend to go for sophomore, junior, and senior years, or those who have recently graduated and have been accepted into their year going right into graduate school.
Nice. What was it that drew you to that position there?
Well, I had to figure out something that made sense for what it was my cause was. And essentially, I used to work on the Diversity Action Work Group for the EPA for many years. And I did a lot of advocating for this exact thing. And my partner, Darius Stanton, who's one of my colleagues and close friends I grew up with since birth. He's the visionary founder of the C-Stream program. Him and Bill Ball put together the proposal. When you talk about providing HBCUs and other organizations that are underrepresented with more resources, what better fit than myself being an HBCU graduate who also understands the programmatic side of development, but also the environmental components of this type of work. It's a rare connection to have.
We should say you're from where I live, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, HBCU. Go Hawks!
Yes.
Very good. Why does C-Stream, if someone asks you what it's there for, why is it needed?
There's a lot of disparities as it relates to people of color around environmental statistics. Individuals from underserved and underrepresented populations have long comprised a disproportionately smaller percentage of degree recipients in the STEM fields. And so with underserved and underrepresented minorities, groups such as African Americans and Hispanics, American Indians, collectively forming around 28% of the U.S. population, but only accounting for 13% of the science and engineering workforce. And the disparity is similar or worse for the geoscience subsector, where the fraction of PhDs awarded to students who identify with the above minority populations average only 14% between 1976 and 2016, with no trend of change over time. The value was 15% in 2016 to 2018. So clearly, this disparity is a major roadblock towards our creating a network where institutions and long-standing as parts of our society can help diversify their faculty, as well as role models and mentors who can help break the cycle of underserving a certain segment of the population.
That's really striking that the percentage of PhDs over the last, like you said, more than 40 years has plateaued, among those people of color. Why do you think that the needle hasn't really moved there?
Well, it's all about priorities, right? And you've noticed, so you may have noticed over the years where certain demographics have been prioritized more or less at certain institutions and things. So a big part of that is having people on your staff and on your teams who are in charge of decision-making roles who have a connection to these groups and these targeted audiences. Without those connections and understanding what the BMPs are around outreach and things like that, it makes it hard to provide those services and making people feel welcome and making them have a sense of belonging.
It sounds like you're saying it's a lack of social capital. If you don't see someone like you, and if those people in those positions of power don't normally have interactions with people of color, of disadvantaged people, then neither the twain shall meet.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important that the C-Stream program, we offer a variety of different services around cohort building, events in person and things like that, to engage our fellows in a way to make them build a community. We offer lunch and learns. We offer lunch bunch sessions. We really offer awarding, we award them travel monies to attend events and professional development. So, we really try to meet them halfway.
Someone who may be listening, maybe a student themselves interested in this program, what are the kind of parameters they need to have? Like, what are you looking for in the background of a candidate here?
The C-Stream program, we definitely are looking for people of color and first-generation college students. We are also looking for people who have a niche or a background or a desire for wanting to help their community and their environment. You just need to be a U.S. citizen. This is a 12-week program from May 20th to August 9th. The compensation is $6,000 with the opportunity for a $1,000 stipend for housing, and as well as $1,500 available for professional development. Applications are due January 28th, 2024, so get those in. This is a very supporting and safe space to explore your environmental career, to be surrounded by a network of environmental management and science professionals, and it's very welcoming.
A theme that we keep coming back to is about supporting and building diversity in the environmental field. And I think any field, we hear often the benefits of having a diverse workforce. Why do you think that matters so much in the environmental sector?
Well, because for years there's been a great monopoly happening. When I say monopoly, I say it in the sense a lot of these opportunities have been monopolized for years. When you look at statistics around the workforce, you'll see these trends that take shape around from a contractual perspective as it relates to those who are actually installing or doing the work around environmental restoration or science or research and things like that. And getting more ownership in the lanes of having an input at the table. So to me, that level of supporting and advocating and bringing awareness around, why it's important that contractors look like the communities that they're serving. There's a great amount of funds coming down from the feds around restoration and the Chesapeake Bay being deemed as a national park. And so with that stimulus package that it is, we want those funds to direct to where they matter most and to for those that are making decisions to get it right the first time.
This might be a good time to talk about your work as a contractor and a recent project that you worked on to help plant some trees and repair some previous environmental work that was done there. I was hoping you could talk about that.
Sure. Yeah. The project we focused on there was a tornado restoration, environmental justice project, in the sense that it was created to be a response to some major ripping up of that community that happened during a recent tornado.
What happened in the tornado?
There were trees that were ripped down, houses, sidings were destroyed, holes created in people's roofs, all kind of melee, and to me that's considered to be a ground zero. My next question was, well, who is offering support and resources to this community that's been hit by this environmental disaster?
This is a community called Annapolis Gardens. As you say, sustained quite a bit of damage. And did the damage impact those previous work that was done there? I guess some rain gardens had been developed?
Well, the rain gardens were not damaged during the tornado, but for the last, 15, 20 years, have been functioning not to standard. They failed the assessment test done by some engineers recently.
So that was separate from the tornado. What had happened to those?
The lack of maintenance. We also got funding for an invasive species removal project at the Annapolis Gardens community because we held a listening session to get the thoughts and ideas from the community and what they want in their community. And before they said they wanted any trees planted, something needed to be done about the invasive species. They complained heavily about trees covering their windows, trees that had been falling for years and never been removed, invasive species all throughout the community. There was actually even a bush that had a couch in it, and young teens going in there doing, inappropriate things right near the playground, right? But who's going to go in there and remove those invasive species?
This is not an uncommon problem, right? Maintenance is often something, we see it too often, right? That falls by the wayside.
But it also goes to resources, maintenance as a direct reflection of resources when you're talking about a project that exists in a black or brown community. And that's an even deeper issue where lack of long-term funding or lack of long-term support for projects in underserved communities is an issue. So that also is what led us to write these grants, several grants, and meet with several policymakers to see how we can create some change in this community. The Urban Tree Grant Program is through what we got through the Chesapeake Bay Trust. And we were the only minority-owned company that got awarded that grant out of the $7.7 million that was distributed under the 5 Million Trees state initiative.
You talked a little bit about bringing a communication piece into it. How does this look different than, let's say, your typical environmental restoration?
Well, historically, there are people that come in that don't look like the community, that don't represent the community, that don't have connections in the community, that don't care enough about the community to solicit input from the community, and they hire people from outside of their community. And that's the dollar leaving that community, and that's not a great thing. This goes back to the whole monopolizing of the industry and why it's so important to encourage, diversity development in the entrepreneurship space around environmental sustainability. By engaging a new workforce, we are able to hit communities that otherwise would not be even targeted or approached or addressed or brought into the fold of environmental sustainability. And we all know to reach our environmental sustainability goals, whether it's from the UN or what have you, we have to, the only way we can do that is by engaging with those who have been left out of the discussions. And so this is a direct attempt to curb not only just local impacts, but also global sustainability issues as well.
You grew up in the Annapolis area?
Yeah, born and raised, yeah.
How did you become build that connection with the Chesapeake Bay and the environment? Where'd that come from?
Just growing up in the region, I had several family members that lived off the bay, whether it was through aquaculture or, farming industries, things of that nature. But my grandparents, great-grandparents, cousins, uncles, family members all thrived and lived throughout the outdoor environments in this Chesapeake Bay region. My grandmother was a big influence in my life. And when she passed away, I decided to, at the time I was working as a director in the Boys and Girls Club, and I was, doing a lot of youth development work. I decided to redirect myself and do a complete career change, and that's what led me into the environmental industry.
It seems like a through line in your life is about helping other people overcome adversity, and you, from what I understand, have had some in your own life. Do you mind sharing a bit of your own story growing up?
I love talking about mine.
Okay, yeah, who doesn't? But yeah.
This is, I failed the 11th grade. I was taken out of regular school and middle school and put in a learning center, Sylvain Learning Center, I was having trouble with, making a transition into the public school system, much of which because I didn't have teachers that looked like me and had an understanding of how to teach a young black boy in the 80s, in the early 90s.
Were you acting out or something?
Oh, yeah. One year I had over 200 referrals.
Oh, my goodness.
But I was smart enough to never get suspended, or it was like playing the edge, But it taught me a lot through that time. I made this basketball team every year, but never played because my grades never were of par. Much of which because I had a lot of differences with coaching staffs and teachers, and it was a mess, But I did graduate from high school and go right into college, where I played basketball and things like that. So it was a bit of an overcoming thing. And what it taught me, when I was 15, I also got in trouble with the law, where I got into a fight at a party, in Cape Sinclair. And I went to Broadneck High School. So I got like community service and had to go through the Scared Straight program, and where I went to Jessup jail facility and sat down with lifers one-on-one to get input and try to talk me straight.
I'm wondering, how does your experiences, how do they influence what you do now working with college students who come from, non-traditional environmental backgrounds?
It's the most full circle experience. It's so amazing. And so now it's like when I meet these young students who are in their young careers and I tell them who I am and what I'm doing and my background, they kind of look at me like, wow, you've done some things, and I can aspire to that, That's inspirational, to see that you've done so many things. And
I wonder about the other side of that coin, the employers, the environmental organizations, the private contractors who work in environmental restoration, the academia. I mean, do you have any words for them about what they can do to help bring more diversity into their ranks?
No more volunteering. Please, everyone, put an end to volunteer work.
Yes, I will second that, having done that once or twice.
But I say that particularly for those who are underserved and underrepresented populations, demographics, black and brown, BIPOC students, young adults, people. Cut all the volunteering out. If you are in 2023, going into 2024, still relying heavily or relying for support around volunteerism by people of color, you are doing a disservice to that community. You are not recognizing the value and the assets that they represent in their community. You are not recognizing the historical and cultural context of the discriminatory practices that have existed over the last 400 years in America as it relates to these communities. you are disregarding the economic challenges of those communities who live in arguably the most expensive place to live in the USA, which is the DMV. Okay, PG County, Annapolis, these are some of the most expensivest places to live at for a person of color in the US. Let's recognize that. Let's see how we can fight and advocate for them to get more resources and more what we call wealth resource powers.
Chesapeake Uncharted is brought to you by the Bay Journal, your source for independent environmental news in the Chesapeake region. Production for this episode was by me, Jeremy Cox. The story was edited by Laura Lutz. Our marketing and advertising director is Jackie Kane. You can find more episodes of Chesapeake Uncharted on your favorite streaming service or at ChesapeakeUncharted.com. If you like what you're hearing, sign up for a free Bay Journal news subscription at BayJournal.com. Until next time, this has been Jeremy Cox. Take care.